Hey everyone, my name is Robb Fahrion. I'm the CEO of Flying V Group and really excited to have Tom Martin, president of Martin Investigative Services, on with us today. Tom and Martin PI, private investigators, a client of Flying V Group. Tom, thanks so much for being on with us today and excited to get to hear more about Martin PI. Do you mind start giving us a little bit of background about you, about Martin Investigative Services and the business?
Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks for inviting me. Martin Investigative Services was started in 1981. I was a federal agent at the time, and unfortunately, I was injured and had to give up that career. And so the government has to retrain you so that you hopefully can get somewhat the same salary you had before you were injured. So they wanted me to do a number of things, but only thing I really knew was investigations. I didn't want to become a lawyer. I didn't want to go and get my doctorate degree, et cetera. So I basically signed a waiver with the United States government that if I failed, they wouldn't have to train me in any other way. That was pretty motivating to make sure that I didn't fail. And so we started the agency. When it began, we had no business. We had a phone that didn't ring. We had an empty Rolodex. Yes, we had Rolodexes in those days. But slowly but surely, through yellow page advertising and word of mouth, the agency became somewhat cemented in the community. And eventually, after a couple of years, we actually started hiring employees.
Very good. And what year, Tom, did you start the business? Yeah, how long have you been serving? And then what areas, do you primarily service?
We started in 1981. I can't say that we had many cases in 81 or even 82, but we had a few. I was very fortunate. One of the very few cases that we're able to get got some national attention. So that kind of springboarded us into other areas. To answer your question, I always tell people we didn't have much business, so we took anything we could get. And that way we became full service. It was not really my intention, but when you have a wife and two children at home and a couple of employees that like to eat, you get out there and hustle and you make sure that you take good cases, but we were not limited in one or two areas like a lot of private investigators do. Nothing wrong with it, but
Sure.
that's not our style.
So, in terms for people that don't know much about the business, someone thinks they might need your services. What should they expect, right? Like, how do you go about hiring a PI? What exactly are some of the things that you will do and provide as services to your client? What would be the process of engaging someone like you?
Well, today we are found on the internet or through advertising on some of the platforms. There are 4 areas that we work in, and they're equally divided about 25%. We start out with corporate America, where we go into businesses and find out who's stealing time, money, and product. Then we have the attorneys, where we do civil and criminal cases. The next area, the third area, is the insurance industry. And finally, the public. So at the end of the day, my recommendation is to try to find someone on the internet if you don't get a referral. And whatever situation you have, make sure that that particular subject matter is on their website. About 40 to 50% of the private investigators only do one thing, and that's fine. They're really good at it. They might just do surveillance. They might just do criminal cases. They might just do trust cases or civil cases, and they're fine. So just make sure that you can hire that person if that's a genre that you need. And I would make sure that they're very transparent. Do they tell you what they're going to do, how long it's going to take, and what's it going to cost?
Tom, we were talking a little bit before we jumped on together. Been doing this for a while now. We're obviously in the tech space, so curious to hear from you. Yeah, how have the tools changed? How have the methods changed over the years, right? What does surveillance and the work that you do look like in 2025 with the technology and the tools that you have at your disposal now that you might not have had 10, 20 years ago?
Well, it's interesting you would mention surveillance because it is all the subject matters that we do, it has changed the most dramatically. In the 80s and 90s, we had to get out there and simply do surveillance. We had to follow people. which is very, very difficult, especially in Southern California, given our traffic. And most people want to hire just one investigator. Our rates are about $175 an hour. And you're expecting that investigator to drive in the traffic, not lose the subject, do videotape, take notes, and eventually give a report. And so we would have to follow people into hotels, into other people's homes. And so it was very, very tedious. Now we get calls from clients, male or female, and they basically say, I saw my husband's iPhone and it says tomorrow he's going to be at the No-Tell Motel with Mary Lou. All I need you to do, not follow him, not go engage all this stuff, just get a picture when he's in the hotel or going on the elevator to go up to the floor. And so it's changed from doing 4, 8, 16 hours of surveillance to going out and taking a snapshot. And it's works pretty well.
Great.
And it's very cost saving for the client.
Yeah, no doubt. In terms of, let's talk about maybe some myths, right? Or just misunderstanding, Tom, over the years with your experience, what would you say is kind of maybe common misconceptions or just something that might be misunderstood about your particular business and industry and how you guys work and operate?
Well, I think the public, and rightly so, has a misconception because of what they see on TV. They see cases that are instantaneously solved. And I'm pretty well known in the industry when people say, well, is your life really like Magnum? Can you comment on that? And I go, my life is nothing like Magnum. It's more like Columbo. And I can't tell you how true that is. Some of the cases that we work can be heart-wrenching. Some of the cases are tedious. You need an enormous amount of patience. And I can tell you it's the one thing that us here, who are all former federal agents, we have to work at that. We have to cultivate the art of being patient with clients and while we work these cases. Because you have these people's lives in your hands. I mean, somebody hires you to do a murder case, you better be on your A game. If somebody hires you to get their relative out of some type of civil action, best be on your A game. So we take it seriously, as many of the good private investigators in the country do.
Makes sense. Tom, getting to know you, the business, you've built a career out of trust, integrity, ethics, authority as well. How do you balance that trust and ethics and integrity with getting results at the end of the day too, right? Because I think some people might, what is the line in terms of what you cannot do when it comes to these types of areas? So if you could talk about a little bit, the federal former agents, the seals that you have on the website, which are awesome. And then, how you balance that trust, ethical work in this space as well.
I think that's a great question. And I think hopefully the answer that I give will be seen by people who want to become private investigators, because you've hit on the single most important thing that we try to develop, that the top-notch private investigators throughout the United States try to also emulate. So in this regard, talk is cheap, actions speak louder than anything. So most of us with our federal backgrounds, and anybody can claim, there are a few people out there that claim they're federal agent associates. Well, everybody, including myself, was a federal agent. So FBI, DEA, IRS, and Secret Service. And I know some people say, okay, we've heard of that, and we don't want to hear it anymore. Well, I think it's pretty important. It plays well, and it gives a sense of confidence. But you also now are responsible to take that reputation and hopefully that experience and prove to the client that you can do the job they're asking. And if you can't, you must tell the client. You must say, this is a case we can't take. Or if you get involved in a case and it's not working out, the wheels fall off it. The hardest thing for a PI to do, the biggest mistake that they make, not giving the money back. If you are just starting out as a private investigator, integrity, honesty, all the things that you already know about. So when a client comes, we've had clients that call us up and want us to locate people. And I had this company that we started called US Unite, still going strong. And we used to advertise on the first minute of Oprah. And we get hundreds of calls all over the United States. And people would say, hey, Tom, you located Willie and Jimmy and Mary, but they're down in as a particular state, they're alcoholics, they're druggies. I don't want to be around them and I want my money back. So your first inclination is to say, well, wait a minute, we did our job. But the reality is, as hard as it may seem to be, is we give them their money back. So we offer a pretty strong guarantee. I mean, some things we can't make 100%, but I think if you look at it from the point of view, the client is always right, no matter how hard that is to swat.
Sure. Just to wrap up here, Tom, one of the last questions I have for someone that is out there, right? Maybe they have a feeling, hey, something doesn't feel right, or an inclination. What do they need to know? Like when should they come to you? Should they hire a PI, right? What's advice for clients to kind of take that first step? When should maybe they consider taking action?
Well, two things I would say to that. One, in women, it's called women's intuition. In men, it's called a gut reaction. If you have any of those two things and you are concerned, whether it be a marital issue, whether it be a civil or criminal issue, pick up the phone, do your homework, do your research, and then call, and then listen to what the private investigator is saying.
Okay.
You will know whether they're full of malarkey, whether they're coming from a place where they just want to get a retainer. So do they actually care about your particular case and show some empathy to the issue at hand? Very
amazing. Okay. Tom, hey, thanks so much for joining us today, giving some more insight, plenty of valuable information, and just from your past experience. Tom, for someone looking for you or interested in services, how can they find you, your firm? If you wouldn't mind, letting people know how they could reach out to you.
real simple. Just go to martinpi, martinpi.com, where they can call our toll-free number, 800-577-1080. And they can call and they can inquire. My staff will be happy to, and I'll be happy to speak with them just to guide them through it, or maybe give them a referral to somebody else in the country.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks for inviting me, Rob.